After the smoke settles, nobody shouts. That's the first thing you notice. During the fight, there is always noise. Orders, curses, gunfire, explosions, metal on metal, boots on stone, the wild edge in a man's voice when he realizes a bullet was meant for him and somehow missed. Noise is chaos, but it is a kind of comfort too. It means something is still happening. It means the story isn't finished yet. But after, when the last shell has fallen and the last burst of gunfire echoes away into the distance, there is a silence that doesn't feel like peace. It feels like the world standing still and asking, "So, what did you decide to keep?" You were still catching your breath when the order came, "Sweep the street, check the buildings, see who's left." It was a small town once, just another cluster of houses pressed up against a narrow road, with a church at one end and a row of sheds at the other. Somewhere behind it, someone had decided to draw a line on a map. On one side, them. On the other, you. The town itself didn't care. It had tomatoes in the gardens and laundry on the lines until the last moment. Now, most of the windows were broken. Roofs had holes where shells had punched through. The air was thick with dust, brick, plaster, and the bitter smell of things that used to be alive. Smoke drifted in lazy ribbons from fires that no one was in a hurry to put out. You moved slowly down the main street, rifle low, boots crunching over glass and debris. Your squad was spread out, 2 ahead, 2 behind, you in the middle. The enemy had been pushed back beyond the ridge, at least for now. The fight had rolled on without you, the way storms roll across fields, leaving behind just enough damage to prove they were ever there. "Left side," your sergeant called. "Start checking houses. Anyone breathing, you mark it. Anyone not, you mark that too." It sounded simple. It never was. The first house you entered had no doors left. The frame was splintered, half hanging. Inside, a table lay on its side. A pot had spilled across the floor. Whatever was cooking turned into a black crust. There were shapes under a collapsed shelf. At first, you thought they were sacks of grain. Then you saw a hand sticking out, fingers covered in dust, rings still on. You moved on. The second house had a wall blown open, the room exposed like a cutout model, a bed frame, a chair, a torn coat. No bodies here, no survivors either. Just the impression that someone had left in a hurry and probably never made it far. The third house had a soldier in it. He was from your side, the uniform made that clear. He lay half sitting against a cracked stove, one knee up, head resting back against the tiles. His eyes were closed, but his chest moved very slightly. There was a dark patch on his stomach where his jacket had soaked through. You knelt beside him, feeling the dust rise around your legs. "Hey," you said, "you with me?" His eyes opened slowly, as if each eyelid weighed a kilo. They were glassy, but focused enough to recognize you as something familiar. His lips moved, but the first attempt at sound didn't work. You leaned closer. "Water," he managed. You had half a canteen left. You pressed it to his mouth. He drank like a man who had decided this was the last effort he was going to make today. "Where's your squad?" you asked. He swallowed, coughed, winced. "Here," he said finally. "Somewhere." You glanced around. No one else. Just him, and the slow drip of something from a cracked pipe above. "Medic," you shouted, out of habit more than hope. No one answered. Medics were busy elsewhere, closer to the line that was still moving. This town was behind it now. Behind didn't mean safe. It just meant forgotten for a few hours. You looked at the wound. It was bad. You could see that much even through the fabric. The blood had slowed, but hadn't stopped. There was a certain color it turned when the body was running out of what it could afford to lose. You had seen that shade before. "You're gonna be fine," you said. He smiled at that, a small, crooked thing that said he knew you were lying, but appreciated the effort. "You're a terrible liar," he whispered. "Yeah, you admit it. I get that a lot." He breathed slowly, each inhale like it had to fight for space between the pain. "What's your name?" you asked. "Dawson," he said. "You?" You told him. "Hell of a street," he said after a while, staring at the hole in the wall. "We take it?" "We did." He nodded, as if that answered some internal question. "Good," he whispered. Be ashamed to bleed on somebody else's pavement for nothing. You sat with him for a few minutes. It felt wrong to leave, but the squad was moving. The sergeant's voice came from outside. "Anything?" "Wounded," you replied. "Bad one. He needs a medic or a stretcher." "We don't have either," the sergeant called back. "Mark the house. We'll send someone later." Later. A word that does a lot of heavy lifting in war and rarely delivers. You looked at Dawson. He was watching you, not with fear, but with a kind of tired acceptance. "It's all right," he said. "I can wait." You knew he couldn't. You had a choice. Mark the door with a sign, the usual way, a rag, a symbol, something to say there is someone here, and then move on. Or stay until someone with more equipment, more training, more authority came by, if they came at all. You took out a piece of chalk from your pocket. You carried it for maps, for doors, for whatever needed to be marked when words weren't enough. You moved to the doorway, hand lifting. "Blue," the sergeant reminded you from outside. "Blue for wounded, red for gone." You stared at the wall. Your hand didn't move. Behind you, Dawson shifted and grunted. "Hey," he said quietly. "Blue, right? That's the one you want." You turned back to him. "You don't know that," you said. He shrugged with one shoulder. "Feels like I do." The street outside was waiting. Your squad was shrinking into silhouettes. The war wasn't going to pause for you to have a calm, thoughtful moment over a color on a wall. You stepped back inside, dropping the chalk into your pocket. "No, Mark," Dawson asked. "Not yet," you said. "I'll sit a while." He frowned. "You don't have to." "I know," he said. "I'm doing it anyway." You sat down beside him, backs both to the stove. You listened to his breathing. It came in waves that got shorter each time. You gave him the rest of your water. He told you, in a halting, fragmented way, about a street back home that looked a little like this town before the shells. About a girl who rented a room above a shop and who laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny. About a younger brother who wanted to join up and how he told him not to. "You think he listened?" Dawson asked. "Brothers never listen," you said. He smiled again. Outside, the sounds of sweeping, shouting, moving faded. The squad went on without you. Somewhere, someone would notice you weren't with them. Eventually, someone might even ask why. Dawson's head tilted back. His eyes drifted toward the broken ceiling. "You should go," he said softly. "You'll get in trouble." "Already in it," you said. "Might as well stay." He laughed once, a sound that turned into a sigh halfway through. "Fair enough." Time thinned. The light through the hole in the ceiling shifted from gray to something softer. Dust settled on your boots. Your legs went numb from sitting too long. You didn't move. At some point, his breathing changed. The rhythm that the body fights to hold started to stumble. The space between each inhale grew wider. "You still there?" he asked, voice barely more than air. "Yeah," you said, "still here." He nodded, eyes half closed. "Good," he whispered. "Hate to do this part alone." You stayed until he didn't breathe anymore. You didn't check his pulse. You didn't need to. The room changed when he left. The air somehow got lighter and heavier at the same time. You stood slowly, joints protesting. For a moment, you just looked at him, at the way his hands had relaxed, at the strange calm on his face. Then you stepped outside, chalk in hand. Your sergeant was at the end of the street, talking to someone from another unit. He glanced your way, saw you, saw the chalk, saw your expression. You watched understanding settle on his face like dust. You turned back to the door and drew a small red mark on the wall. After the smoke settles, you don't remember the exact number of shots fired, or the pattern of the artillery, or the coordinates you shouted over the radio. Those things belong to reports and maps, and whoever has to write what happened in a way that sounds like it made sense. You remember other things. A town that didn't ask to be chosen. A house that went from blue to red in the space of an hour. A man you barely knew who didn't want to die alone, and the quiet decision you made to make sure he didn't. Years later, when people ask you about the war, they want stories about battles, about movement, strategy, victory, defeat. You give them some, you tell them enough. But the story that stays with you is simpler. It's about a street after the fighting stopped, a room that smelled like dust and cooling metal, and a soldier named Dawson who bled out slowly while the rest of the world moved on. And about how sometimes, after the smoke settles, the only thing you can really choose is who doesn't have to face the end by himself.